in the past few years, a big trend in the league was, you know, it's kind of old school to get a coach who really doesn't call plays. If all he's doing on the sideline is a rah-rah type of guy, he's kind of not really a coach. He's just clapping. He's just doing nothing over there. You need a play caller. And a lot of these teams were hiring 34-year-old play callers with absolutely no leadership skills and doing that for a while. Now, last 4 teams, Shanahan's not in the playoffs. McVay's eliminated. LaFleur's eliminated. McDaniel didn't make it. Of the 4 teams that are left, there's one play caller who's a head coach, Andy Reid, one of the greatest of all time. And, Niner fans, we think of Bill Walsh, also play caller, one of the greatest of all time. But Sirianni does not call plays. Dan Quinn called plays when he was a coordinator, does not call the defensive plays in Washington. Their defensive coordinator, Joe Witt, does. And then Sean McDermott, a really accomplished defensive coordinator, does not call the defensive plays for the Buffalo Bills. He lets their defensive coordinator call it. So I think that's an interesting trend. Guys who can call plays choosing not to call plays unless they're literally one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I see the thing is you can be a play caller and a good leader, but do you have the time to do both during the game, right?
Only one guy apparently does.
Yeah, Andy.
And he has an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, right. And Kyle does now too, supposedly. So we'll see how that goes. It's like a head coach and an offensive coordinator are very demanding roles on the team, especially in game. Like that's one thing when you're watching these teams is the coaches that are not play callers, they have a lot more time and freedom to focus on everything that's going on the sidelines in the game. And I think that's a huge plus. I'm not against play callers being head coaches, but you're going to have to find the balance. Doesn't feel like Kyle has that balance, honestly, because every time you see him, he's looking in his play sheet. He doesn't seem to be involved like in anything else that's going on.
Also, game management is his biggest issue.
Yeah,
well,
I would.
One of them.
I think like if I had to choose, like, hey, get a new head coach and keep Kyle's offensive coordinator, or get a new offensive coordinator and keep Kyle's head coach, I would choose to keep Kyle as the offensive coordinator. I think that's what he's better at than being the head coach, being the leader, being the game manager. I think his play calling is better than that part of his game.
Can I blow your mind real quick?
Please.
Okay. So I was looking this up today. I could be wrong. Anyone wants to fact check me, please do. I looked this up on the internet, which is always 100% true. But his dad, Mike Shanahan, actually coached in the NFL for a long time.
I heard
he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, Mike Shanahan, right? Yeah. Won 2 Super Bowls. This is true. 97 and 98. So he was the head coach from 95 to 2008, long time, and won 2 Super Bowls early on. He had been, an offensive coordinator, play caller for the Niners and when they won a Super Bowl. So he had some pedigree. Went to the Broncos, hired a guy named Gary Kubiak to be his offensive coordinator, and Kubiak called the plays. So Kyle's dad, when he won Super Bowls, actually delegated that responsibility to Gary Kubiak, who turns out to be a great play caller himself. Cut 10 years down the line, less than 10 years down the line, Gary Kubiak becomes the head coach of the Texans. Who does he hire to be his offensive coordinator? Kyle Shanahan. And what responsibilities does he give to Kyle? Play calling. Because Gary had the wisdom that even though he could call the plays and was really good at it, he's the head coach and he had bigger responsibilities. He had to look at the big picture and not just think, what's the next play in my play call sequence? His dad figured that out too. Mike Shanahan figured it out too. Why can't Kyle figure that out? Why is he so stuck in this little competition with McVay and LaFleur and McDaniel on who can be the best play caller guy? You guys are all head coaches and none of you guys made it to the Final Four this year. Why?
My mind is blown. I was not aware that Shanahan Sr. did not call plays.
Gary Kubiak.
That is interesting, man. It's a lot to do with, like, you see it in every profession. When you spread yourself too thin, you can't really be great at any one thing, and focus is key. Part of the reason I'm switching up my channels so I can have more focus. Like, focus is a tremendous it's critical for your success. If you're doing too many things, you can't be good at any one thing. And so, I mean, it speaks volumes in that regard. I would like to see Kyle have the focus, step into your head coach role. He's obviously not going to step down into an offense coordinator role. So the option is step into the head coach role and delegate more responsibility. I know he's promoting, why can't I think of the guy's name? Slowick?
Clay Kubiak.
Clay Kubiak. Kubiak, Gary's son. See, like a little chain of.
Be like your dad. Your dad
Yeah.
let the young Kubiak call the plays. Why don't you let the young Kubiak call the plays? It worked for Shanahan the Elder. That's how he got his 2 And the other thing about that, okay, Denver, I was looking this up. So he won the Super Bowls 97, 98. He had Kubiak calling the plays. He was just a head coach. He also had a general manager who he pushed out after the second Super Bowl. Freaking Mike Shanahan became the king of Denver. He pushed out the general manager. They lost John Elway, and they were mediocre at best for the rest of their tenure. And now Kyle Shanahan's kind of the same. He's the king of Santa Clara, and he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to be the general manager. He doesn't need to be the offensive play caller. Like, he needs to be the head coach. But I wonder if deep down he lacks confidence. Like, I wonder if he thinks, man, if I'm not calling plays, I don't really have much to contribute. Because Dan Quinn doesn't have that. Dan Quinn's like, I could call the plays, but I'm a great game manager. I want to do that.
I would love to see him just step into the head coach role. The only thing about it, though, is, like, again, I don't think that's his strength. So that's the problem for me. Like, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan he's a better offense coordinator than he is head coach.
No doubt.
He's not a particularly good leader of men or motivator or game manager. Now, to his credit, maybe those are things that he can improve on and would be better at if he didn't have the offensive coordinator responsibilities.
But that's the thing. Like, so we know that he's more of a play caller than a head coach. He feels more comfortable in the offensive coordinator role than in the head coach role. And we've seen other good coaches go the other direction. I mean, Robert Saleh became the head coach of the Jets, really good coordinator, really smart guy, delegated to Jeff Ulbrich. So other guys do it differently. Dan Quinn worked with Kyle, does it differently. And that's why this search for a defensive coordinator is so interesting, because it's not just a coordinator you're looking for. If Kyle really is just an offensive coordinator at heart, then this guy is also the head coach in a lot of ways, because the defensive coordinator is the guy who's providing the energy, the emotion. You watch Dan Quinn and Sean McDermott on the sidelines. Those guys could be calling plays, but they're not. After every series, they're on the field. They're high-fiving everyone. Maybe Kyle thinks that's dumb, but I think it shows the players that you're engaged. You're in the game. You're not somewhere else thinking about something else, talking to someone else. Like, right there. I think that matters.